Good evening, I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Hurricane Irma continues to batter Jacksonville, Florida, causing severe flooding and high winds. More in this report. And we'll join CNN briefly for an update on this situation.
Here in the UK, but also a big test of Theresa May's leadership. And that vote is happening on time. So they've gone in.
Well, Antiguans have been quick to provide assistance to Barbudans forced to evacuate their homes. Sean Farrell reports that the church is also heavily involved in the effort.
Members of the Christian community in Antigua gathered at churches around the island to show solidarity for the people of Barbuda and other countries impacted by Hurricane Irma. One such service was held at the St. Mary's Anglican Church in St. Joseph at Erlings.
Parish priest, the Venerable Franklin L. Reed, encouraged the congregation to look out for their brothers and sisters in their time of need.
We are to be hospitable to one another. We are all important, my brothers and sisters, whether we're from Barbuda, Anguilla, St. Thomas, St. Martin, Saba, Statia, the Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands, our brothers and sisters in Miami.
Attending the service was Barbudan resident Doug Beezer.
98% of the homes are totally destroyed. Mine wasn't destroyed because unfortunately I built mine out of concrete. But some of the Barbudans have to remain in Antigua because their house is totally destroyed, right? So unfortunately for them, they will have to maybe start over their life in Antigua, right? Because they have nothing to go back to. But I hope we get enough relief and aid so they can start over the process because they have the kids they have to put in school and stuff like that.
But he's thankful for the help he's received from friends in Antigua.
They open up their doors for us, you know, like we're family, you know. So we're quite happy that we have Mr. Hodge and his wife to take care of us for the duration until we can get back to Barbuda.
Former Deputy Commissioner Dane Hodge will be providing accommodation for Mr. Beezer and his wife.
And there are others that I really want to take in, but just because I don't have the space. But I'm blessed to really take them in, and I appreciate what the country is doing actually, Antigua.
Meanwhile, as authorities continue to assess the rebuilding costs, disaster management officials are saying they must be satisfied Barbuda can support life before people are freely allowed to go back there. Reporting from St. John's, Antigua, I am Sean Farrell for the CBC News.
The situation in the British Virgin Islands has been described as a major disaster. That's according to Director of the Caribbean Disaster Relief Unit, Atlee Rodney. Speaking at the airport in Tortola, he said the CDRU team was working to help with the distribution of relief supplies. He indicated one of their challenges was the lack of communication between the islands, with many unsure about the extent of the damage. 70-year-old Kishore Santani of Elizabeth Park, Christchurch, is Barbados' 18th road fatality for 2017. Police are conducting investigations into the circumstances of a 3-vehicle smash-up which resulted in the fatality and several injured passengers on Salters Road, St. Michael. Police Public Relations Officer Acting Inspector Roland Cobbler gave us the details of the collision,
which occurred sometime after 1 p.m. this afternoon, involving a minibus and 2 motor cars, which resulted in the death of a 70-year-old Christchurch male resident and 5 passengers aboard the minibus. All received minor injuries. 3 of those passengers were transported to the QH by ambulance for further medical attention.
As the investigations continue, Inspector Cobbler made an appeal to motorists to be extremely cautious.
Particularly the fact that school children are back to school today, there'll be more pedestrian and more vehicles on the road. I want to encourage persons to refrain from taking any unnecessary risk as relates to driving. Always ensure that those precautionary measures are put into practice at all times.
Despite the rains, thousands of school children returned to classrooms across the island today following a 9-week summer holiday. CBC visited schools across the country to see how they were settling in. Rianne Phillips tells us more.
This morning, many students were chipping as they hurried to arrive at school before the ringing of the first bell. It was an extra special day for some little ones who were accompanied by their parents on their first day. Some of these little ones appeared terrified by the new classrooms. However, parents were on hand to help them settle in.
I'm very happy and joyful to be here this morning to see my daughter come in on her first day. Very excited. It was a moment like weekend that I was so excited trying to get everything in order. So I'm glad to see, so far it's only one child or so in there crying, but I'm surprised to see she's not crying, and I'm so grateful for that.
Those feelings of excitement were shared by students at other schools.
I am feeling good because I am happy to be back at school. I'm feeling good and I'm happy to be in a new class today, and I'm so happy because I love my school a lot.
Over at Parkinson Memorial, Principal Ian Holder welcomed 160 new students. He intends to use a slightly different method for the student body this year.
This term we are trying to focus on moral and social development of the students, as well as the use of music as a developmental tool in that aspect of social development. We found that students are very motivated in our music programs, and we've actually been doing very well in that area.
Many first farmers already have their goals mapped out.
I'm looking to be the head boy of Parkinson Memorial School and to do my work and to be the best.
The term will end on December 14th for students and on the following day, December 15th for teachers. Rianne Phillips, CBC News.
We'll take a short break here and come back with more news.
Category 1 emergency shelters are used during hurricanes or other disasters. Category 2 shelters are used after disasters hit, provided they are still in reasonable condition. In Christchurch, the Category 1 emergency shelters are Blackman and Gollop Primary, Christchurch Foundation, Gordon Walters Primary, and St. Christopher Primary.
For a full list of shelters, visit www.gisbarbados.gov.bb or www.dem.gov.bb.
You're looking good. I love your hair, your skin, so good looking. Healthy, it must be the milk. Pine Hill milk.
Watch Get Healthy Barbados for the latest news from the Ministry of Health and tips on how to eat healthy and keep fit. Don't miss it every Tuesday night at 8:30 and repeated every Friday at 10:30 a.m.
Let's get back to this story. Hurricane Irma continues to batter Jacksonville, Florida, causing severe flooding and high winds. We get more in this report.
Severe flooding, historic flood levels already, and authorities say it will get worse, and these gusts that we expected, they continue to hit us. What's interesting to see, though, dry ground right here behind me. I'm in the middle of downtown Jacksonville outside the Omni Hotel, and you just have to swing a couple degrees around for this street to look like a boat landing. Right here in the middle of town as the waters of the St. Johns River flow up into downtown Jacksonville, right up Hogan Street, Water and International Streets to my left, a familiar block. If you're familiar at all with downtown Jacksonville, the Landing, a very popular watering hole, is now underwater. And this, John, is just the beginning. High tide here will be at 2 p.m., so authorities say these historic flood levels we're already seeing, they will continue to rise, maybe 4 to 6 feet above that high tide level here. Now here in downtown Jacksonville, you can't go east from here. You've got the south side and then the barrier islands of Jacksonville Beach and Ponte Vedra Beach, familiar vacation spots for many. But the bridges that go east, they are closed. They are closed to any traffic trying to go that way. Authorities doing all they can to get people off of those islands. westbound traffic is allowed for any people who tried to ride out the storm there. First responders in position to make rescues if needed. We've learned from the sheriff's office here they were making some waist-deep water rescues already today. But again, John, the caution, as we see a fellow right here to my left with his cell phone out, observing this site downtown. The caution is still so high here, John, as you can see the wind gusts that I am feeling, and these water levels will continue to rise.
The Drug Treatment Court is doing its part to combat the spike in violent crimes by reducing the demand for illegal drugs. Chief Justice Sir Marston Gibson believes there's little doubt that much of the firearm use seen in recent times is fueled by the drug trade. He made the comments while addressing a special sitting of the Supreme Court to mark the start of the 2017-2018 legal year. He also used the opportunity to report on the mediation project introduced to help clear the backlog of cases. While the Chief Justice believes too few lawyers have come on board, President of the Bar Association, Lizelle Weeks, says lawyers want certain assurances before perusing mediation as an option.
He thought that lawyers were continuing to say that their clients wanted their day in court. While that may or may not be so, I don't have any empirical evidence of that. I know that lawyers are very willing to launch into the mediation program once they're satisfied that the mediators are qualified and that it would be an expedient method of dealing with matters. And I do know some lawyers, certainly some seniors, who have taken their matters to mediation. They're also...
Ms. Weeks also suggested that some people may prefer to go to court because of the costs associated with alternative dispute resolutions.
It's $7.50 for the first 3 hours, and then there's an additional sum payable for every hour, and that may prevent indigents from accessing the mediation program. So we may have to look at those and refine them a little bit. But I think, as with any new initiative, it's going to take some getting used to. It's going to take the successes of people who are actually participating, spreading the word about the success and getting more people involved. So it's
Barbadians are being encouraged to accept their social responsibility to fight the upsurge of crime and violence. It's coming from Speaker of the House of Assembly, Michael Carrington. Speaking at the DLP lunchtime lecture, he says violence should be seen as a social problem and not a political issue.
The law enforcement agencies, and this is not, I'm sure you're not hearing this for the first time, the law enforcement agencies, they rely a great deal on information. It therefore behoves each and every one of us to cooperate and communicate effectively with the Royal Barbados Police Force to assist them in wresting this behemoth to the ground.
The Speaker of the House also says the social partnership should look at ways to address the problem.
We talk about the social partnership right now dealing with the economic matters and so on. But is it too much to ask that the social partnership also work on a comprehensive approach to the issue of crime and violence? I don't think it's too much to ask.
A major factor influencing the recent spike in violent behavior among local communities is an education system that's failing most of the country's young people. At a panel discussion held by the Barbados Workers Union aimed at formulating solutions to the country's gun violence problems, Public Relations Officer for the National Organization of Women, Marcia Hines Lane, blamed the current education system for neglecting the emotional needs of young people. She says while academically gifted students receive a high level of attention, children are not being taught to become emotionally intelligent.
If you are able to say, I am upset, I am unhappy, this is why, how can we fix it? You don't need to resort to a violent means in order to be able to do that. If you can feel like you can write a letter, engage your government, engage your National Organization of Women, have a response, you become less of the type of citizen who gets entrapped or who gets enamored with alternative forms of constructions. Should I say the word gangs? That seems to scare us a lot.
Ms. Hines went on to criticize the overall academic structure of the school system, which she suggests creates opportunities for a small, elite group of students while neglecting others.
There are 4 or 5 grammar schools in Barbados, and then there are the rest of schools. And if you think that there are 150 places by 5 in the grammar schools, then really what we have is a system that fails more students yearly than it passes. We've been comfortable with that forever. Those are some of the real deep issues that are creating the outgrowths that we are seeing.
Parents of children born in the public health system and all those who seek support through the law courts should have to attend parenting classes. That's the belief of Magistrate Ian Weeks, who was a part of a panel discussion on the current social behaviors in Barbados. Sharika Griffith has more.
In a session intended to educate and engage worshippers on what's happening in society, the River Road New Testament Church of God did things a little differently on Sunday. In front of a packed church, they held a panel discussion under the theme, "Awake and Arise, ye servants of God." Magistrate Ian Weeks was part of the 4-member panel, which addressed several topics before fielding questions from the audience. He believes a national parenting program is needed if the country is to reclaim its youth.
If you get a child and it's delivered at the public cost, QEH, or if you access the court for maintenance, mandatory parenting program. The lady comes, as long as we identify who the father is, you gotta go to counseling, parenting classes. So by that, because I'm supposed to also tell you the ways the church can be involved, the bottom line is, Parados will be given a further injection of money to assist, but also the churches who are involved at the NGO level, because you too, as part of your remit, must do your own parenting programs.
In his contribution, President of the National Council of Parent Teachers Association, Sean Gibbs, says calls for more guidance counselors in schools have gone unanswered, but he thinks the church is in a position to fill that void.
Pray for them constantly. Get in there and form a relationship that you can pray with the principal and the management team. Pray for students that need help, and where possible, meet them where they are, where they felt needs, in an attempt to empower them. Because for every child that you assist, for every parent that you assist, you are snatching them from the undesirable elements that will meet their needs in exchange for something that is negative.
Meanwhile, Assistant Commissioner of Police Erwin Boyce queried whether some young people are predisposed to crime even before they are born, based on the practices of their parents.
So the question is, how much do we pay to prenatal activities as it relates to understanding criminal behavior and criminal risks? Are we seeing a wider cross-section of pregnant women smoking marijuana and drinking, and as a result of that, are producing what we are producing today?
Founder of the Pure Sex Center, Ambrose Carter, says unlike the past when conversations about sex were taboo, children nowadays are confronted with an abundance of messages on the topic. He's of the opinion that a youth forum is needed to counteract these messages.
There needs to be a constructive, interactive environment that caters to their needs. A place where they can meet, interact, play games, listen to music, and talk to their peers, their age, who have been through similar experiences, who can guide them and offer support.
The panel discussion was the first of a 3-part series the church intends to hold. The ultimate goal is to equip the church with the knowledge necessary to have a positive impact on the community through its ministry. Sharika Griffith, Cbc News.
Memories of Crop Over 2017 are still fresh, but stakeholders are already keenly debating the possibility of merging next year's Sweet Soca and Party Monarch competitions. Culture Minister Stephen Lashley is hopeful that the dialogue will ultimately lead to what is best for the festival.
As expected, there is a mixed bag of reactions from both the entertainment community and the public at large. The idea to table a proposal for change came about as a result of the current music trend towards sweet soca and bashment, in addition to the trends in attendance at the various venues. Emotions aside, I am certain that the eventual discussion will take an objective analysis of the pros and the cons of either option with the intent of improving our festival products.
Speaking during the Crop Over 2017 awards ceremony, the minister said changes to the marketing strategy for this year's Pickety Crop contest paid off to some extent.
This year we began the process of changing the face of Pickety Crop, as we know it, to a more youthful experience, first to generate interest in the Calypso art form, and secondly, to ensure the preservation of the traditional aspects of this festival. Though the new life of the Pickety Crop did indeed manifest itself in an increase in the level of attendance this year, over the last 5 years, there has been a steady decline in the audience numbers at the semi-final stage of the competition, and so there's need for open dialogue on this matter in the interest of protecting the festival product.
After the break, we'll take a look at stories making headlines across the region.
Secure your future, be financially strong. Since 1983, we have been there for you. A smart range of products, great tax benefits. We're the solution to your hopes and your dreams. The Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union. The Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union. Humble beginnings to smart loans, smart savings. Save smart and borrow smarter. That's the move for me. Stability, prosperity. We're the solution to your hopes and your dreams. The Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union. The Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union.
Community Files.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Food, Fisheries and Water Resource Management invites all primary and secondary school students to enter its Grow Well, Eat Well, Live Well school gardening and picture board competition. Application forms and guidelines may be downloaded from the Ministry's website www.agriculture.gov.bb. Completed forms must be submitted to Winnell Savory of the Ministry's Planning and Communications Unit at gellifebarbados@gmail.com or faxed at 535-5257 by September 22nd. For further details, please call the unit at 535-5138 or 535-5142.
In Trinidad, as the government is looking for ways to revitalize the state oil company Petrotrin, a word of advice is coming for the Prime Minister from the opposition leader. Kamla Prasad Besessar told him to terminate the contract of his party financier and reclaim the almost $100 million that's been stolen.
It is a scandal and fraud of the highest order.
On the heels of the Prime Minister's acknowledgement that Petrotrin is hemorrhaging money and urgent action must be taken to turn the tide, comes an accusation from the opposition leader that a PNM financier is defrauding the company of millions of dollars.
One company, owned and operated by the Prime Minister's very close friend, and I'm told he's also a very close friend of the Minister of Energy. He's a close friend of the government, and he's the financier of the PNM. He has defrauded Petrotrin of about $100 million within the last several months.
The opposition leader says the fraudulency is highlighted in Petrotrin's most recent audit statement after the company noted a discrepancy between the amount of oil for which it was paying and the actual amount it was receiving.
So this man was overstating this production by such a vast amount. 5,000 barrels a day in the month of June alone. And we estimate that production for this month would have been overstated for this month alone by 90,000 barrels, which at a conservative $33 a barrel per month, The operator works out to overpayment of US $2.97 million for the month of June alone.
Mrs. Bissessa is calling for the immediate termination of the lease operator's contract, as well as the resignation of Energy Minister Franklin Khan.
I intend to write to the Commissioner of Police, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the head of the Fraud Squad, and the Integrity Commission, enclosing copies of this report. And requesting that immediate criminal investigation be commenced into the actions of those responsible for this fraud being perpetrated on the people of our country.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force is denying allegations of widespread sexual harassment within the service. This amid allegations that some female police officers have not been promoted because they refused sexual advances from their commanders. Head of the JCF's Corporate Communications Unit, Superintendent Stephanie Lindsay, says the force has a strict policy on sexual harassment. She says she has had discussions with the Deputy Commissioner in charge of administration about the allegations, but neither of them had heard of the claims before. A glimpse into the world of sports is just ahead, but before we get there, here's a tip from Cooperators General Insurance.
This tip of the day is brought to you by Cooperators General Insurance Company Limited. Insurance the way you want it to be.
Trying to use the ATM during daytime hours. If you must use an ATM at night, take someone with you. This ATM safety tip is brought to you in association with the Royal Barbados Police Force.